Elton John is no mere legend. He's a tempest and a beacon, the rocket man who set the skies ablaze with your song and offered a grieving world an eternal lament and candle in the wind. For over half a century, he's been more than a musician, a living symphony, a knight who forged his pain into anthems of resilience that echo across humanity. His brilliance, however, was carved through anguish and tears, scarred by years lost to relentless addiction, a hollow marriage that nearly broke his spirit, and a body ravaged by cancer and brutal surgeries that dragged him to the edge of oblivion. These were storms that would have crushed most, yet he rose, unyielding, defying fate's cruel hand. Now, at 78, when the world thought he'd found peace after decades of chaos, a new shadow looms, a harrowing battle that has left millions stunned. What is the torment haunting the Rocket Man in the twilight of his life? Before we dive in, honor him with a like, a tribute to a man who gave everything and still fights to stand tall. The cruelest irony is when the home meant to cradle you becomes the crucible of your deepest wounds. What happens when walls that should hold love instead ring with coldness and fear? On March 25, 1947, in Pinner, Middlesex, a town shadowed by post-war Britain's austerity, Reginald Kenneth Dwight was born, a fragile boy who'd one day become Elton John. An only child, he faced a world of scarcity alone, with no siblings to share his fears. His father, Stanley, a rigid Royal Air Force officer, was an unyielding wall of ice, enforcing discipline with a severity that choked warmth from their home. A searing memory haunted Elton, being berated for simply removing his blazer incorrectly, a sign that even the smallest misstep could spark rage where love should have thrived. My father never hugged me, never said he loved me, never saw me perform, Elton later confessed, his voice raw with the ache of absence, not anger. His mother, Sheila, offered no sanctuary. Her sharp words and relentless critiques chipped away at his fragile confidence, turning speech into a minefield. Their home rationed affection like wartime bread, and over time, their bond fractured into silences that stretched for decades, mending only briefly before Sheila's death in 2017. By his early teens, around 14, arguments had torn the family apart, and his parents' divorce left him with his mother in Pinner's modest house. A new figure, stepfather Fred Fairbrother, brought a gentler presence, offering stability where Stanley's coldness had reigned, though the scars of Elton's early years never faded. I grew up desperate for love, desperate for approval, he later admitted, a hunger that shaped both his triumphs and his darkest hours. In that loveless home, an upright piano became his salvation, its keys his confidants, its melodies his unspoken truths. By 11, his devotion earned him a scholarship to the Royal Academy of Music, a rare beam of light in a dim childhood. Teachers marveled at his gift, how he could summon melodies from nothing, transforming a boy unseen at home into a force undeniable at the keyboard. Records became his secret allies, the radio his lifeline, and music his language where words failed. The harsher his home grew, the more his hands spoke, turning rejection into rhythm and longing into chords that refused silence. In a house of restraint, music gave him freedom, forging resilience note by note until survival itself sang. From that crucible of pain rose a spirit unbreakable, and the scars of Reginald Dwight began to hum the anthems of Elton John, songs that healed not just him, but millions who found hope in his wounds. As a father, he vowed his children would never know the coldness he endured, promising they'd feel loved every day, a quiet rebellion against the silence that shaped him. Music didn't just save Reginald Dwight, it was his only compass. Every stage rejection echoed his father's silence. Every ignored performance a reminder of unheard applause. At the Royal Academy, surrounded by prodigies, he felt like an outsider, his heart drawn to rhythm and blues while teachers praised symphonies. Restless, he skipped classes, haunted by fears of falling short. By 15, while peers played in schoolyards, he was pounding keys in smoky pubs and hotel lounges, earning pennies amid slurred voices and clinking glasses, a faceless backdrop to strangers' nights. I was hungry for someone to notice me, he later recalled. Music his only proof of existence. In the mid-1960s, he joined Bluesology, a backing band, standing in the shadows of other stars, invisible as he'd felt at home. Rejections piled up like discarded sheet music, and doubt gnawed. Perhaps stardom wasn't his fate. Maybe I'm not meant for this, he confessed, a thought heavy with every closed door. But in 1967, fate answered a small ad, bringing him to Bernie Taupin, a lyricist whose words unlocked the melodies burning within. Meeting Bernie was like finding the brother I never had, Elton said, their bond instant, almost destined. Where Reginald had music, Bernie offered poetry. Where one carried scars, the other brought kinship. Together, they crafted salvation, not just songs. In 1970, Your Song announced Elton John's rebirth, a name forged from bandmates Elton Dean and Long John Baldry. A funeral for the silenced Reginald, and a coronation for a man who'd never again be ignored. The boy whose father never said, "I'm proud," gave the world a ballad so tender it became eternal, a wound finally heard. If Your Song was a spark, the 1970s were a blaze no stage could contain. A 23-year-old Elton, once a lonely pinner boy, soared from pubs to global arenas. His 7 consecutive #1 albums in America, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Captain Fantastic, The Brown Dirt Cowboy, cultural juggernauts that rewrote music's language. With rhinestone glasses glinting like flames, feathered boas trailing rebellion, and pianos roaring like living beasts, Elton didn't perform. He built sonic cathedrals where joy reigned. Bernie Taupin, his quiet poet, gave his melodies soul, their partnership a cornerstone of music history. But glory carried weight. Fame lifted him to dizzying heights, but pressed down harder. The boy who felt invisible was now watched by millions. Yet he admitted, "I was sprinting faster than my soul could follow." Applause thundered, but silence stung deeper when it faded. Critics pounced, tabloids tore at him, and each triumph demanded more. In 1975, at Dodger Stadium, clad in a sequin Dodgers uniform, he played to over 100,000 across 2 nights, a coronation before the world. Yet even that triumph hit exhaustion, for legend is a height you must defend endlessly. The 1980s tested him as hits like I'm Still Standing and sad songs, Say So Much, endured, but the industry shifted, tours grew grueling, and competition sharpened. While others faded, Elton reinvented, proving his genius lay in resilience. The 1990s brought rebirth, a $39 million Warner Brothers deal in 1992, the largest in music history, bought creative freedom. His 1994 The Lion King score with Tim Rice, Circle of Life, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, wove into global childhoods. In 1997, after Princess Diana's death, he reimagined Candle in the Wind for her funeral, singing to billions, a lament that sold 33 million copies, the best-selling single ever, all royalties fueling her memorial fund. In 1998, Queen Elizabeth II knighted him, a bittersweet triumph for the boy who craved his father's nod. Elton's peak was jagged, radiant, relentless, his genius not just in entertaining but enduring, turning pressure into art. Yet brilliance cast shadows. From the late 1960s to mid-1970s, as stadiums roared, Elton unraveled privately. Depression clung like a shroud, and substances, cocaine, alcohol, pills, promised escape but delivered despair. "I had everything, yet nothing," he confessed. In 1975, the year he conquered Dodger Stadium, He nearly died, overdosing on drugs and alcohol before plunging into a pool, a cry for help, not rebellion. From 1974 to 1990, addiction's grip tightened. 16 years of cocaine, alcohol, and bulimia ravaged him. He played to adoring crowds, then binged and purged in shame, his body seizing, his spirit fraying. I didn't think I'd see 30, he admitted, a chilling truth. Friends worried, doctors warned, but addiction's hold was merciless. In 1989, Ryan White, a teen with AIDS, changed everything. His grace amid prejudice mirrored a strength Elton lacked, and when Ryan died in 1990, Elton played at his funeral, finding clarity. "Ryan saved my life," he said, entering rehab that year. Recovery was a war. Discipline replaced applause. Humility replaced spectacle. Sober since 1990, he calls it his greatest triumph, a lifeline for millions who saw their struggles in his. Addiction's scars taught empathy, proof even the darkest nights can break into dawn. Sobriety couldn't shield him from truth's terror. In 1984, at 37, Elton married Renata Blauel, a German sound engineer, in Sydney, hoping marriage would quiet his loneliness and society's judgment. "I was living a lie," he admitted, fear driving him, not love. For 4 years, he played husband while Renata, trusting and kind, faced his inner war. Their 1988 divorce left scars. Guilt for her pain haunted him. "She was an innocent caught in my storm," he said. Renata vanished from public life, resurfacing in 2020 to dispute his memoir and Rocketman, a reminder of wounds still tender. The marriage wasn't love, but a farewell to pretense, a painful step toward authenticity. Diana's 1997 death was a thunderbolt. Their friendship, built on laughter, dances, and trust, made her loss unbearable. On August 31st, 1997, her car crashed in Paris Pont de l'Alma tunnel, chased by paparazzi, leaving twisted steel and a grieving world. Elton, frozen, whispered, "She can't be gone," as flowers buried Kensington Palace. At her funeral, he sang Candle in the Wind 1997 in Westminster Abbey, a prayer for billions, his voice breaking but unyielding. "Without her, the world felt colder," he said. The AIDS crisis compounded his grief, claiming friends like Ryan White and Freddie Mercury, whose 1991 death left Elton hollow. Visiting Freddie's bedside, he saw a titan reduced to whispers, a loss that fueled his 1992 Elton John AIDS Foundation, raising over $600 million for treatment and dignity. Grief became action, loss became legacy. Illness struck harder. In 2009, an E. coli infection left him shaking in a hospital bed. In 2012, pneumonia stole his breath. In 2013, a ruptured appendix nearly killed him. In 2017, a bacterial infection landed him in intensive care, and prostate cancer surgery left him frail, performing in diapers to hide recovery's toll. In 2021, a hip injury forced surgery. In 2023, a fall in France sent him back to hospitals. And in 2024, an infection stole vision in one eye. "Not seeing my boys clearly is the deepest cut," he confessed, his voice raw. Type 2 diabetes demands daily discipline, needles, diets, physiotherapy. Yet he fights on, each hospital bed a stage, each recovery an encore. Love saved his soul. In 1993, at a Windsor dinner, he met David Furnish, a Canadian filmmaker whose calm saw past his chaos. "I felt truly seen," Elton said. Their 2005 civil partnership and 2014 marriage marked triumphs over prejudice. Their sons, Zachary, 2010, and Elijah, 2013, via surrogacy, gave Elton purpose fame couldn't. "My boys are my reason to live," he said, their laughter louder than ovations. Weekly letters with David, sealed for their sons, chronicle survival and love. David stood by through every illness, a vigil stronger than fame. Today, at 78, Elton lives vibrantly at Woodside, his Windsor estate a riot of art. Warhols, Hearsts, rhinestone costumes. His life story in color. He sold his $25 million Beverly Hills mansion and Atlanta penthouse, parting with his Goodbye Peachtree Road collection for $20 million in 2024. His garages housed Bentleys, McLarens, Ferraris, and a private jet once carried him skyward. His $650 million fortune places him among Britain's richest, but he insists his true wealth is his family and his AIDS Foundation's impact. His 1998 knighthood, 2019 Rocketman biopic, and 2024 EGOT, with an Emmy for his Dodger Stadium concert, cement his myth, as does his 2025 UK #1 album with Brandi Carlile. Slower now, half-blind, disciplined by diabetes, he cooks for his boys, writes with David, and plays piano for joy, not applause. I want to be remembered as a father, not a superstar, he says, his final triumph. Elton John is proof you can fall endlessly and rise, turning scars into songs, pain into hope. His message, sung and lived. I'm still standing, not because he never broke, but because he always mended. Which part of his journey resonates with you? Share below, like, and spread his story of resilience. Outro music. This analysis draws from data at production time and may evolve. Dive into our recommended videos for more tales of triumph. See you next time.